Hello, Garland Nixon here. We are hanging out with the one and only Laith Marouf. We got a lot of things to talk about. We're certainly going to point you to his outstanding website, freepalestine.video. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. And before we get going, make sure you go to freepalestine.video. That's freepalestine.video. That's what Laith Marouf's outstanding website. As you can see, look at all the video. I mean, you're really going to learn a lot from that. That is your one-stop shop for all the things you need to know about resistance forces, about military operations. They got field reports. They're on the ground. Very dangerous work. Very important work, and it is in English. So it's, really focused on Western audience that need to learn so much about what's going on in the region. And very importantly, looky here, donate. You have to click on the donate button to help fund them. That gives you the opportunity to make a one-time donation, but far more important than that, if it's possible, do a monthly donation to keep them going. They're doing great work. Thank you very much, Laith Marouf, for that good work, and let's get going. All right, where to start? There's so much going on. Let's start here, because this is in the Western news everywhere. I know you have some unique takes on the flotilla. Your thoughts? And let's start off, but people don't know. Explain what's going on with this flotilla, because people may not even know what I'm talking about. So explain what's going on with it, and then your thoughts on it.
Yeah. So there's they just launched the largest flotilla since the flotilla started in 2008, 2009. Currently they're saying around 60 boats are leaving from Spain, Italy, and Tunis. There's some boats that are coming from Asia somehow. I don't know how they're going to meet them. But, if you look back at the history of the flotilla attempt to break the siege on Gaza, we will see that only the first flotilla made it. And then after that, the second flotilla was attacked with at least, I think, 6 martyrs, people that were killed by the Israelis on the boat.
Yeah.
And since then, it's been impossible to get anything into Gaza through the sea route. And I worked on the second flotilla effort, and at that time I was in Canada, and there was the group that was managing the project in Canada. And to send a boat from Canada, really, it's to send people on a boat and fill it up, but buy it somewhere in Europe and send it to Palestine. The project costs around $1 million. And that was a small boat. So you could imagine how many boats have been sent since 2008, and how much money was put into all these boats and the coverage of the people's trips and whatever is on the boats. That's been handed over to the Zionists, literally. And today we know that the Israeli Navy is going to probably board all these boats in international waters and again steal what's on them. And maybe this time they will kill people as they did in 2009. So we're wasting money on this effort. They should have, I think, the organizers should have thought of directing these boats somewhere else. One, for instance, they could have occupied they still can, the United Kingdom base in Cyprus that is providing all the logistical and intelligence support for the genocide in Gaza. It's very easy to do so. They could blockade the ports of Spain, where the actual flotilla is leaving, and Spain is right now the largest trade partner of Israel in Europe. They don't, they don't need to go far. I mean, the Spanish supposed government, the Spanish civil society are all against the genocide. So why is Spain still buying products from Israel? Why is Spain allowing ships to dock in Spanish ports that are carrying arms and going to the Zionist colony? They also could have just blockaded the Gibraltar Strait. Spain has control of half of it, and this is where the majority of the American and other weapons are passing through the Gibraltar Strait to go to the Zionist colony. They could have blockaded Turkish ports, which are still supplying the Zionist colony with the vast majority of the products that are coming into the Zionist colony are coming on ships from Egypt and Turkey. So there is many ways they could use these boats and this flotilla to have real results for their action, instead of ending up with handing over all the supplies and the boats and the people on the boats to being tortured and beaten up by Israeli soldiers if they're not getting killed either. So I see it as a strategic mistake right now.
I see what you're saying. I understand what they're thinking, but and I understand what you're saying is as far as a practical reality, it gives them a photo op, yes, and what have you. But as far as a practical reality in the real world, what does it accomplish? It's just the boat. A lot of money is going to be spent, and then ultimately, whatever is on there, the Zionists are going to take and use it for their own means. So yeah, I understand your position very much, and especially being that you've actually had involvement in one of those issues, one of those instances. So yeah, I understand. Perhaps they could, I don't know, people do things here. I do tend to think that we need more action in the imperial countries to block things here, to do things here. I mean, if you're going to risk your life because they may kill you, blow it up, shoot you, if you're going to risk your life, why not risk your life here? You know what I mean? Why do we allow our countries and our government to defy us in such a blatant way and then say, okay, we're going to go do this and everybody's going to, you know what it seems to me sometimes too? People do things, somebody does something and everybody sees it. And then people say, I'm going to do it too, kind of a copycat thing. And they don't really maybe stop to think out other than this is what somebody does. So now we're going to do it and we're going to do it bigger. But every single time it's just, we go here, they eventually stop the boats in some way or another. Either they kill somebody or they take the boats and everybody flies home. And you just do that over and over and over, and it becomes to be performative after a while because the Zionists are like, okay, another group of boats. All right, what do? All right, we now have a group of people. And when the flotillas come, your assignment is to go to the flotillas, take the people off, get the boats, tow them in. We've got docks where we always tow in the flotilla boats. Then we got people that unload the flotilla boat. And it becomes almost like an operation where everybody knows what they're going to do. And the Zionists have people that's their assignment. What do you do? Oh, my job in the military. Yeah, I'm a flotilla guy. Whenever the flotillas come in, I'm one of the guys that goes out and gets them and takes the stuff off. We got warehouses where the food and stuff goes in. The warehouses, what do you do with that? We ship them over to settlers. They eat all that stuff. And then we move the boats over here where we destroy them or sell them on the open. You know what I mean? And it gets to be just an operation that almost like they're playing a game. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and all it's there's also people employed in this. It's not anymore a small project of just a few people trying to get a boat. It's now more than it's 2008 until now. What is it? 15 years almost?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So now there's jobs, there's positions in a global structure. And so there is incentive to keep doing the same thing. And so this has already lost its radical potential. And it's, repeating the same experiment and expecting a different result. Like, it's literal insanity. And so I've tried to tell people that, look, you put your finger on the right thing there when you're talking about if you're ready to die on the shores of Gaza, might as well risk your life inside the United States or the UK or Europe. And in fact, you don't have to do something that is very militant. You can do things that are your life will be at less risk and will have more effect inside the United States, inside Canada, inside Europe, and the police and the government and the system will treat you better than the Israelis will when they put you on trial or strip you naked and beat you up because you're black. Let's say what's his name, Smalls.
Chris Smalls, yeah.
Yes, right. So if you're gonna get humiliated because you're black by cops, might as well let it be your nationals that are doing it. Why do you go across the world to get some racist treatment as a black activist in the US? Keep it local, as they say, right?
Well, and I'll add this, and I'm not saying this to put down the people who do it at all, because I'm sure they mean well. It's just that if you start to look at it, here's something else I'll tell you. And I always tell people, I was in law enforcement and I worked at very high levels. Here's what I will guarantee you, Laith. I will guarantee you this. If there is an infrastructure, right? If there is now gotten to the point where there's people that raise money, there's people that buy and sell boats, there's people that buy and sell the stuff to load on the boats and the supplies that they're taking to Gaza, there's an infrastructure. That infrastructure has been targeted by intelligence, and that infrastructure has been infiltrated by intelligence. And there are people in that infrastructure who are MI6, here, FBI, CIA, you know what I mean? That in that infrastructure, it is targeted, and there are people in there. And the people in there may not ever do they may be some of the most the agent provocateurs and the actors from the intelligence oftentimes are the most over the top. Oh, we've got to stop the Zionist, I hate Israel people, right? And they may never do anything that makes you to mess it up. They may not screw it up. They may help it. They may do everything, because their job would be to be in there to report everything that's going on, to get every name of everybody who's involved and forward that to intelligence, just to gather intelligence, to gather information. And they may help facilitate it because it doesn't scare them. They know nothing's going to happen. So the problem with having an infrastructure, what you said, once you have an infrastructure for projects, that means that intelligence can now target that infrastructure, can now target the finances. Where's the money coming from? They ain't going to stop it. They just want to continue to gather the information from it. I've been in rooms and I've heard that said. So that's the other thing. On those boats, there are intelligence operatives. And no fear of them. And the Zionists know who they are, and the boats are likely maybe bugged. You know what I mean? There's information. If they're having meetings, they're bugged. The Zionists are sitting back there as the boats come towards them, getting information, listening to what's going on the boat. They've got people, and this is what we're doing. This is where we are now. This is what we're going to do next. This is blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? It's fully infiltrated. If there's an infrastructure, guarantee you that.
And also, since the Zionists themselves have seen the whole project every time, how it's beginning from A to Z, they have and understand how it's going to roll out, what's the effects and so forth. They may actually want it to continue happening, because you could imagine if all these labor unions and student unions and women's groups and so forth and community organizations and all these wealthier donors within the communities that are spending all this energy and all this money on the flotilla year after year. Imagine if these are now not under a controlled project that you know the outcome of. Okay, so in fact, you could say that it is almost becoming like a Democratic Party situation, where you absorb the agitated populace that wants to do something change, and then you're like, here we go for the election, go for the flotilla, and now you've wasted a year on energy and money of all these people, and they're frustrated, and the project fails in achieving any of its goal, and now they're out of the system, and they're just sitting on a couch because they don't feel like doing anything after that. So this is, part and parcel of the problem of institutionalizing things like this, especially when they're not working. It's crazy to see institutionalization of failure. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so yes, there's a lot of questions, and we can't answer them here, but we can tell the audience that people have some sense and try something different.
Yeah. What about the, I've seen lately that the resistance factions in occupied Palestine have been launching a lot of fierce attacks. They've been kidnapping Israeli soldiers. There's seems like every morning I go up and I start checking around, and there was another ambush. It seems to me that the Israelis are still facing, far into this genocide. They're still facing fierce resistance.
Yes, I mean, there hasn't been confirmation on captured Israeli soldiers, but we have confirmations on these very complex firefights and ambushes that the Palestinian resistance in Gaza set up over the last week multiple times. And this is because the Zionists are attempting to enter Gaza City. And now, they are, bombarding from the air. They clearing, destroying whole neighborhoods, and bringing all these drone APCs, old APCs that have now drone mechanism on them, and filling them up with TNT and driving them through the residential blocks and then blowing them up. This is how I think, on the one hand, the Israeli, munitions by air and sea are becoming more rare. They have shortages, and they're needing to deal in on the ground forces, sending these APCs to blow up neighborhoods that they usually would have bombarded from air. The other thing is that this bombardment is not destroying the tunnels. And therefore, once the Israeli forces enter a neighborhood that they blew up with these APCs, Palestinian resistance is coming out from within the rubble and ambushing them. There was a firefight that was recorded, lasted like 5 hours between the resistance and the Israeli forces. The Israeli forces had to, fly in multiple helicopters to pull their dead and injured. And this is happening on a daily basis. They haven't been able to make any headway, the Zionists, in Gaza City, even though they've destroyed huge parts of the edges, the neighborhoods that are on the edges, and they're still unable to enter those neighborhoods that they destroyed. So that shows us how well organized the resistance is, how well trained they are, the fighters, how also grounded they are to their people and their land, and they're not going to leave. They have no choice. They're the people of the land. And on the other side, we can see the beginnings of the total fatigue of the Israeli military. In the first blow on October 7th, the Palestinian resistance took out the 12 most senior, most seasoned generals, Israeli generals, in their attack October 7th. And since then, there's been a lot of officers and generals either killed and or retired. And we've seen the Zionist government change the Minister of Defense and their chief of staff of the military 3 times since the beginning of this war. So again, that shows you how even though they've made all these changes, they haven't been able to come up with any plans that are implementable and or anything innovative in this battle against the Palestinian resistance, and is getting desperate. And now there's a fight again, one more time, between Netanyahu and the chief of staff of the Zionist military, because we just saw a leak in the Israeli media saying their Gideon chariots, the invasion of Gaza City over the last 6 months, didn't achieve any of its goals. And that shows you that there's discontent inside the Israeli military and the government.
You know, something else I meant to ask you, and it is to me connected to the flotilla story, not story, but the actions that are happening outside in the imperial countries, and that is the lobbying for military action. We've seen more of that now, people lobbying for military interdiction. Your thoughts on that movement and what's going on with it?
Yeah, I think they're calling themselves Protect Palestine Initiative, and they're, they've held a few demos in the UK, and they want to lobby the Hague Group, that's basically Colombia, South Africa, and the other states that were part of the International Criminal Court of Justice, the ICJ genocide case against the Zionist colony. Now, I don't know why, but they decided to tweet at Free Palestine TV yesterday, and they were asking us to put them in touch with the military resistance leadership in Palestine and Lebanon, which is already a crazy.
And it's a little bit of a red flag.
It's a red flag.
When somebody comes to me and says, "Oh yeah, I'm on your side. Can you put me in touch with somebody?" You may be okay, but it's going to make me real suspicious.
And you're doing it on a tweet, number one. And the other thing is that the people that are organized include Craig Mukhayber, the ex-UN staffer that resigned at the beginning of the genocide, and this other person who also worked in UN agencies. So we replied, we're like, we're sorry. I mean, it just doesn't make sense that, number one, you do it in public. Number two, that you expect the resistance military to contact you for what?
What are you going to next? Answer yourself. I'm not saying either one of two things. Either you're compromised or you're extremely naive and you don't know what you're doing. See, that's the other side. They don't know what they're doing in there. Hey, what are you going to do? You think I'm going to give you their cell phone number so you can text them? And the Israelis are like, oh, okay, there we got the coordinates. Send a missile.
Yes. And here, Laith Marouf is somehow connected to the military
exactly.
Of the resistance. So stupid. But look, let's forget that for 1 second. They're proposing that they're going to lobby, and through demonstrations, governments in South America and South Africa to send a military force to defend the Palestinians. Number one, there was a military force defending the Palestinians that's called the Axis of Resistance. So, and they're still the Axis of Resistance defending the Palestinians. So maybe you can lobby those governments to send weapons for the Axis of Resistance to defend the Palestinians. That's more logical. Number two is like, let's say they have some red, hotline to the ministers of defense of these countries, these organizers, and these governments agree. I mean, it took 9 months for the US to move NATO forces to attack Iraq. How long is it going to take for Colombia and South Africa to do something like this? By that time, there will be no more Palestinians left in Gaza anyways, right? So the proposal is another waste of time and waste of energy and waste of money. And it just doesn't make sense. What we reply to them is, we call on them, since they clearly have the money and the platform and the time, to bring 10,000 anti-Zionist Jews to the frontline villages in South Lebanon, for them to sit there and protect the Lebanese people as they're rebuilding, because their homes are being attacked every day. And anyone who's trying to rebuild in the south of Lebanon, all the construction and so forth. Let me see, can we find 10,000 good Jews on the planet that will be really willing to risk their life non-violently to just stand in the way of the Zionist destruction of South Lebanon? If they can't get their Jewish friends to do this, there's a lot of others. But I think it would make, if we want to talk about propaganda and what's going to be the return for seeing a few, 10,000 Jews on the border of Lebanon and Palestine praying, with their Torah getting shot, I mean, this will have much better outcome globally than probably the whole flotilla, honestly, right? And the other thing is that this will create a schism within the Zionist Jews community. There'll be maybe rebellions, people rejecting Zionism that are already Zionists when they see the Zionists killing Jews. There hasn't been Zionists killing Jews in 100 years. And up until now, Jews are willing only to die to maintain Jewish supremacy. There's no Jew that is willing to die to end Jewish supremacy, right? Or defend the name of Judaism. So it has a huge value to play such things, and it doesn't require you to lobby governments that you have no control
of. Okay. I'm sitting here looking over my whatchamacallit, because there's another interesting thing. But yeah, that's a very interesting take. Next, sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. Oh, the big one. Oh, before we get to Iran and Yemen, what's happening with the whole defang and disarm Hezbollah business? That's important. That's very. I think that's one of the most critical things going on in the region right now.
Oh yeah, and that plays, into what I was saying. If there is still a battle in Lebanon, and there's a way for people internationally to have an effect against the Zionists by being here. You can still enter Lebanon. You can still bring your boat to Lebanon. Even those 60 boats, they can come and dock. They don't want to attack the UK base in Cyprus. They don't want to blockade the Turkish or Egyptian ports that are still. Come to Lebanon. Bring all your food and all your aid and all the people on the boats, and come to the south of Lebanon. Help as the school year starts, and rebuild and help people return to their land and stop in the way of the expansion of greater Israel. And definitely look at what's happening here in Lebanon. 2 days ago, the Amal party, the other Shia party other than Hezbollah, which is in coalition of Hezbollah, had their anniversary of the disappearance and killing of their founder and Musa Sadr. And then in that celebration, there was a speech by the current Secretary General of Amal, who is the Speaker of the House, the Parliament in Lebanon, Nabih Berri. And he gave a speech that was very fiery, and he clearly said, the resistance weapons are our shield of our honor and dignity and safety, and we will not lay down the resistance weapons or allow them to be taken under any condition until there is a national army that is strong enough to defend the country. So right now, it's over in terms of a discussion of people thinking that there may be a way to get Amal away from Hezbollah. And it's clear that the military is not willing to disarm Hezbollah. The commander-in-chief, General Haykal, has been multiple leaks have happened of him saying that he will not allow the military to target Lebanese civilians. and therefore these are intentional leaks. Generals don't talk to the media, and we're expecting that if the prime minister forces a cabinet meeting over the next few days without a consensus within the country on the plan, that the Shia ministers, at least 4 ministers, will refuse to come to the cabinet meeting, and basically the government will collapse. So there's a more likely situation is that the government will collapse than the military agreeing to disarm Hezbollah and or anyone locally facing off Hezbollah to disarm them. So there's a higher probability of a collapse of the government, and then maybe the United States and Israel will attack Lebanon to try to disarm Hezbollah.
I see. Your thoughts on well, let's start here. The Zionist attack on Yemen, where they killed the prime minister and some cabinet members.
I mean, obviously, these are all martyrs on the path of Jerusalem, path of Palestine, liberation of Palestine. And Yemen has given a lot for the Palestinian peoples, and they see that as part of their own freedom and liberty as Yemeni people. The prime minister of the progress government of Sana'a was a symbol of national unity because he was from the south of Yemen, and he's from a Sunni family. And in his last interview a week ago before his assassination, in his interview, he spoke like someone who knows what's the price for standing for Palestine, and that he's ready for this sacrifice. And he got, the honor of being a martyr on the path of Palestine. Now, if we look at who was killed with him, all of the ministers that were with him are, civilian office ministers, meaning the minister of, justice, the minister of health, the minister of agriculture, and so forth. And neither the minister of defense or generals were in this meeting, nor the minister of national security, and so on. This was a public meeting, regular meeting in the national government offices. So it's not a huge, let's say, security breach or anything like this. You have the scheduled meetings; they happen, and actually, the Israelis, I think, made a mistake by doing this, because now this is the first assassination of a government official that the Israelis admitted to, right? I think they assassinated President Rais of Iran,
I believe
but
so.
they didn't. Yeah, but they didn't admit it. They here in this situation, they're proud of it, and they're thus Yemen, unlike Iran, Yemen can now retaliate in kind. And that's what we saw now. The beginnings of the Yemeni General Saria, the spokesperson of the armed forces, said that Yemen now will be targeting Netanyahu and the ministers of his government, and they will be targeting ministerial offices because the attack was on a ministerial office in Yemen. Therefore, we just saw also the Israeli media saying that Netanyahu now is being moved back and forth between underground bunkers that are undeclared around the country. This is how scared they are of the possibility of Yemen retaliating. And Yemen already also began attacking more ships right now. They just sunk a Israeli oil tanker in the Red Sea that is owned by the richest Zionist colonist. And I think they will be increasing their attacks. They will be also possibly starting to attack ships in the Mediterranean, which they have the capabilities to. So this is, we should be seeing, projecting a little bit further. It's now, since Eilat is closed, maybe now it's time the Yemenis move to attack the Israeli ports on the Mediterranean, and I think it's going to happen.
I think you're right. The it, it's really odd to me, the whole Iran thing, because the Israelis, they had one go around with Iran and they really got pummeled. And clearly they had to, as they say, they had to tap out. They had to run out of that one. Now they're doing a lot of talk about attacking Iran, but when I look at it, I say, how can they do that? Clearly, they are no military match for Iran in any way, shape, or form. And, if the conflict started again, and they said, okay, it's been 10 days, we can't take it anymore, Iran may say, no, we're not going to stop this time. So to go against an adversary that A, doesn't want a war, and B, you're certain defeat, maybe it'll happen. It just seems, your thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, look, the Zionists are looking for any victory because they haven't been able to achieve any of their declared war goals, neither in Gaza or Lebanon or Yemen or Iran. And things, time is not on their side, either in terms of supplies of the West and or sentiment in the West, and or how much the attacks of people in the region are just more and more justified every time. So they as we see, they're rushing, for instance, to genocide as many Palestinians as they can before reality catch-ups with them. And so I don't think they will stop themselves from attacking Iran. They're crazy. They're looking for that win. But in my mind, there's a bigger possibility that there will be an attack on Lebanon, especially in the next few weeks, than an attack on Iran. And this is because of that need for, or in their mind, for a win. And they think that now Lebanon is the weakest of the axis of resistance at this moment. And maybe, that's going to be their downfall. Maybe Hezbollah has been playing for the last 9 months just a reverse kind of psychological situation where the Israelis, for years before this war started, were claiming that they're so weak and that Hezbollah is stronger than them and so forth, right? Now we haven't heard, and Hezbollah was bragging for years about its powers and its effort. Now we have been having like almost complete silence from Hezbollah about its rebuilding, restructuring, its powers, how many people are members, how many people were killed in the last, almost 2 years in this war. All of that is ambiguous. So the Israelis may get fooled and attack Lebanon and then get a surprise that they haven't expected, right? So I don't think Iran will be attacked before there's an attack on Lebanon. But again, these crazies, it's hard to predict at this moment where they will go.
I agree with you on that. That's the same thing I think. And here's what I think. I'm going to throw the grand vision of this. This is what I think. U.S. empires and its vassals are in rapid decline. I mean, they're just spiraling down. And if you look recently, the UK and France, they're losing their colonies. And I was, just I said, Russell Brand the other day was saying, UK is ready to explode. The people are in poverty. Everything you hear says they got months. I mean, they are on life support economically, right? The US, same way. Americans don't know how bad things are for the empires. And their original plan was, we'll take Russia out and we'll go get China. That didn't work out so well. And now they're looking at China, and China is growing ever more powerful, particularly militarily. And they're now looking at this saying, we're running out of stuff. We can't defeat Russia. We can't really go up against China. What are we going to do? I think their plan is this. Okay, we can't take out Russia and China, but we want to take out Russia and China. Here's what we'll do, particularly China. We will take our military outpost which is Israel. We will expand it and take the whole Middle East. We'll start with getting the resistance forces. We got to take them out first. After that, the vassals in the Gulf states, they're done. You got to take them down next. And then you put in complete and total vassals, because while they're vassals, Saudi Arabia and these others, they're still like working with Russia and China. They're still selling them oil. They'll still do that. Unacceptable. First, you take out the resistance. Then you take out the rest of these vassals and replace them with Zionist based virtually, right? And then you have the whole oil rich region, and then you say, that's it, no more oil to China or whoever it is you want to attack. And that's my opinion, that they've gone from, well, we can't go up Russia, China face to face, but we can get the oil rich region of the world and take the whole thing, and then we can shut everybody else off. We'll shut off the spigot. But that also means that in their devious and diabolical plan, that the vassals in the Gulf states, etc., are not quite vassal enough. That means they all got to die too and get replaced the same way with virtual Zionists, if not Zionists themselves.
Yeah, I mean, look, China and Russia have had a chance, and they should have taken it, of supporting the axis of resistance. And, you know, I think all the love to China and Russia and their governments and their people for caring for their own people. But, you know, China is the second or first trade partner with Israel right now during the genocide. China, for instance, I'm wearing this DJI mic. We bought this at the beginning of the war, but now I know that 90% of all the drones that are flying in Gaza, dropping bombs and so forth, the little drones, quadcopters and so on, they're DJI. Israeli military depends on DJI, Chinese drones, to survey and throw small munitions on Palestinian kids in Gaza. So China could cut its trade with Israel and have a huge effect. China could have said, I will only buy oil from somebody who doesn't trade with Israel, for instance. And that would have moved those Saudis and Emiratis and Qataris to the right positionality. China could say it's not going to export its iron core to any country that sells weapons, or and their chips to any countries that sells weapons to the Zionist colony, or trades. Like, look, even if it doesn't threaten the Western countries with something like that, just saying to African and Latin American countries, hey, which China is the biggest trade partner of all those countries, hey guys, don't do trade with Israel, or I'm not going to sell you my stuff. Those are weaker countries that would have actually followed suit because China said so, right? China has an effect. And unfortunately, China didn't take these positions. Similarly with Russia, in terms of its military support for the axis of resistance and having say over its 2 million citizens that are inside the Zionist colony. They could have done a lot. And the success of the axis of resistance means weakening the empire like anything else could weaken them more than the success of the axis of resistance and the liberation of Palestine. So I don't know how the decisions are made in China and Russia on this file specifically of Palestine. But I feel sometimes that it's contradictory. The speeches of Russia and China at the Security Council in comparison to their actions. And they're harming themselves in the end. If the axis of resistance is defeated, there's nobody else on the planet other than China and Russia that will be a target left for the West to defeat.
Yeah, and it gets back to my point. The empire can't take them on head on. So instead, it says we have to take the entire oil-rich region of the world, and then we can cut you off, China. We can turn off the spigot. So it is their interest. It is their long-term interest because it's just another front that the empire can find. It's like if somebody attacked me, some big, strong guy attacks me, and he's going to beat Garland up. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to strike him in the groin or the eye. I'm going to find a weak point that, I mean, if I try to punch him in the chest, he's just going to, knock me out. I have to strike some area that's weak that I can do damage to, to defend myself, right? Well, when the empire says we can't go head on against China or Russia, we've tried all of our tariffs, they're just too strong now. They find a weakness. Well, they need oil. Or oil is important, and we can hurt China through. So let's go here. They go just striking them in the eye, striking them in the in a weak point that they can attack. And I think your point is well made, that you got to protect your weak points. You've got to protect their eyes or your brain. You can't let them hit you in the weak points. And it certainly seems like that's what's going on right now. And the other side is these leaders in these Gulf states who are like, okay, we're going to play all sides. We're going to do business with Russia. We're going to do business with China, but we're going to be under the auspices of the empire. At some point, the empire will come in and kill you. At some point, the empire will say, you have served your purpose, but you're never go far enough for the empire. At some point, they'll say, now you have to stop doing business with Russia and China. Here's a list of countries you have to stop doing business with. And if you say no, they'll kill you. And they'll put somebody in who will. And ultimately, the Gulf states that think they can play all sides and be under the empire, oh no, at some point they're going to kill you, or you're going to like destroy. And their problem is this: if they went along with what the empire completely wanted, they'd be overthrown and killed within their own. So at some point, there's no out for them, in my point. Either the empire kills you, or internally you get overthrown or killed.
Yeah, I mean, the purpose of creating these royal families in the Arabian Peninsula was to counter the modernized Arabs in the civilizational capitals, Damascus and Baghdad and Cairo, and to try to mold a new Arab while you defeat this enlightened Arabs in Damascus, Baghdad, and Cairo, and bring them down to their knees for 80 years and then destroy all their countries, as has happened in Libya and Syria and Palestine. And then you're left with these oil sheikhs as the model Arab, okay? That every Arab that wants to live has to emulate now. You can't emulate anymore Nasser or our great poets or our great musicians or our great thinkers and scientists. You have to emulate an Arab sheikh, waiting for prostitutes from Latvia and to be brought in by, what's his name?
The Epstein Island or something.
Epstein Island, exactly. But now there's no more enlightened Arab capitals and enlightened Arab leaders. They're all killed and destroyed. So, you don't have Syria that can compete culturally or project a kind of Arab that is modern and enlightened and so forth.
Or culturally captured. You got Dubai. Look at Dubai. Debauchery. I mean, look at Dubai. The Westerners all go there with their women full of the silicone breasts and the silicone butts and their the expensive car and all of the showiest of showy things from the West. It's like Dubai is where we'll do that. You know what I mean? So they've even culturally said, that's not the culture and the history of the Muslim people. That is the worst of Western things that you can't even get away with in the West. They go to Dubai to do.
Yes, and so now that there is no competition to this new Arab, well, it's gonna be exposed very soon, right? Like before, you're like, okay, we're doing this, so we don't get that, right? Okay, we're supporting ISIS because we don't want Assad, right? But now there's no more Assads, there's no Nassers, there's no Saddams, there's nobody anywhere that can stand in the way of this projection of this new Arab. And therefore, it's going to get exposed by itself because it's not a counter to something. Now all the eyes are on it. So now people are going to ask, why is there no election, for instance, in any of these Gulf countries? Why is there that each one of these kings and emirs has hundreds of children? Okay. Where is the money going of all this oil and gas for the last 100 years? So this is why the West is going to get rid of them, because there's no reason for them anymore. They don't need a counter Arab. Now, just you get rid of them and you put them as slaves as they were supposed to be from the beginning.
The other thing I wanted to ask you is the Abbas and his people, your thoughts on them, being denied visas in the West. This is something we get into, and that is the empire says comply and do what I want, but it's never enough. That even when you comply, you think, okay, if I just do what they want, then I'm their friend, they'll take care of me, I'm their buddy, and they always end up stabbing you in the back or killing you anyway. Oh, that's Zelensky. One of these days, he's done. He's guaranteed that. You're one of their vassals. You're marked for death from the very beginning.
Look at what happened to indigenous people in the United States and Canada. They had hereditary clan chiefs, okay, from the Bear clan, the Wolf clan, so on, whatever, different nations. I'm just, giving examples. And the Canadian government came and says, no, that's not the leader of your tribe or your nation. We have a band council appointed person, and he is now the leader of your nation, right? And once the nationalist, patriotic, indigenous leaders were killed and moved away, and their bloodline cut off, as happened to many of them, there was no need for anymore the band council chief. The Canadian government didn't need them anymore. And therefore, they're like, yeah, this treaty, okay, you're not a nation anymore, right? So this is what's happening to Mahmoud Abbas, the treasonous collaborationist. And he's, going around blaming the resistance for the genocide openly, like his masters want. And he's even offering to take over the destroyed Gaza on their behalf and keep those uppity Arabs in place on behalf of the Zionists. But now that in the eyes of Trump, there's no more Hamas leadership, why does he need Abbas anymore, right? The big boo-boo is done. Why does he need this guy, right? So this is the treatment any house slave gets after all the slaves are killed. The field slaves, when there's no more field slaves, the house slave will be turned into a field slave. This is as simple as it is. You only have a house slave so you can keep the field slaves in check. And if they're all dead, the field slaves, you're going to be the one that's the field slave. That's literally what it is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's exactly and it doesn't get back to what I was saying about the Gulf states leaders and these royal families, that at some point there's a lifespan for you in this particular arrangement. It's not like they want this arrangement to go on as it is forever. As long as you are of value, they'll keep you in power, not because they like you, not because they're their friend, but because under this given circumstance, you work for them. You're a valuable commodity. But when the circumstances change, which they inevitably do, and you're no longer of value, you could be a problem for them. They need you to go further. At some point, they're going to say, look at India. India tried to walk okay, we're going to balance between the East and West and blah, 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 blah. And what happened ultimately? They came along and said, do what we tell you or we'll tear you too. We'll destroy you. We'll take you out too. And India now got pushed into what happened here. We thought that we were balanced. We thought we were your friend. Everybody told us we were the weak point in BRICS and blah, blah, blah. And now they said, no, you are a value. Now we need you to do something. Either do it or we'll crush you. The same thing's coming for the royal families in the Gulf states. It's just a matter of time now, and it's getting a whole lot closer to the point where their value is decreased down to nothing. At some point, it'll be told the same thing. Either you take steps that will just obliterate the economies and everything of your countries, or you'll be replaced. Unceremoniously, I might add.
Yeah, and Abbas is not going to make it to New York for the General Assembly, it seems like. The last time the U.S. tried to do this was during the life of, Arafat, Yasser Arafat. And at the time, there was still really a strong third world bloc that moved the whole General Assembly to Vienna in order to allow Yasser Arafat to speak. Let's see all this diplomacy that Abbas is telling us he's been working on for decades. Can he lobby enough states in the General Assembly to move it to Vienna so he can Geneva, sorry, so he can be there? I don't think so. I think he has less say in the General Assembly in his diplomacy than Arafat had.
I think you're right. You're 100%. Which is he has none. That's the bottom line. Zero, none, non-existent. All right, before we go, Free Palestine TV, that's Laith group. They're doing great work. As you can see, military operations. You can watch videos of that. They've got field reports. There's their latest episodes. And where can you find that? The location online, the URL, right, is freepalestine.video. That's free Palestine written out .video. Go there now, go there regularly, make sure you keep up with all their good work, and most importantly, donate to Free Palestine TV. As you can see, if you want to help fund their community television station, which is in English, it is focused on providing information to Western people who are of good conscience and want to find out more. But in order to keep that going, make sure that you donate, and you can do a one-time donation. But if that's what you can afford, that's what you can afford. But remember, even if it's only a little bit, if you set it up as a monthly donation, it will give them a recurring revenue, and a little bit goes a long way when a lot of people do it. So freepalestine.video is something that you can do to contribute to the good works of Laith Marouf and his comrades. Laith, thank you very much. Certainly appreciate it. All right, we'll be in touch soon. Thanks, everybody. And don't forget, follow me on Rockfin and Rumble and all that kind of stuff. If you can afford it, that's great. Patreon or whatever the case may be. You can see PayPal, all that stuff going by. The most important thing that you can do is share this on all your social media platforms. Thanks. We're out.